This guy's a professional musician. He plays the bagpipes. So he gets a gig to play Amazing Grace at a funeral, but he gets lost. He's hours late, frantically driving around trying to find a cemetery, and finally he's driving along. He sees a digging crew with shovels starting to put dirt back in the grave. He parks his car and walks up and looks in the grave. He can still see a little bit of the lid of the concrete burial vault. And he's feeling terrible that he missed the funeral and everybody's gone home, and he's thinking to himself, the proper thing to do is play Amazing Grace just for the sake of the guy that's buried, even though everybody's gone home already. So without saying a word, he goes back to his car, gets his bagpipe, comes back to the grave and starts playing Amazing Grace. Puts his heart and soul into it. By the time he's done, the guys with the shovels are crying, he's crying, he packs up his bagpipe, starts walking back to his car. As he's walking to his car, you can hear one of the guys say, I never experienced anything like that, and I've been putting in septic tanks for 20 years. So the point of the joke is that he didn't have a clue how really lost he was. Likewise, most of us Americans really don't have a clue about who we are. 500 BC, a Chinese warlord general named Sun Tzu wrote a book called The Art of War, and to this day it's the most authoritative treatise on the art of war that's ever been written. And he makes many points in that book, and one of the points he makes, it says, if you know your enemy and know yourself, your victory is assured. But if you do not know your enemy and you do not know yourself, your destruction is inevitable. To give an example, if you ask 100 people off the street, what form of government do we have here in America? I mean, high school, college graduates, right? What form of government do we have in America? They either get a blank look, or the word democracy will come out of their mouths. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the democracy? No, to the republic. There's probably not 1 in 100 that really understands that we're a republic, what a republic is. But by the end of the lesson, even tonight, you'll know what a republic is. You'll have a better understanding of the principles America's founded on than 99% of the politicians that are elected by the time you leave here tonight, just from the first class. So, let's begin. Why are we here? Even from the students, give a personal reason why they've come to the class, what their motivation is.
What you have to say.
Okay. Very wise. Anyone else?
I'm running for office.
Oh, okay. You're
Tony Celeste.
Tony Celeste. Okay. Very good.
That's really
You made
good.
it. Huh?
That's really good.
We got a candidate. Come to learn. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Any others? Yeah. The ladies first.
I want to learn more about it in detail so that I can be more alert for what they're trying to do to us.
Very good. Very good.
This is a chance for me and my daughter to do something together, and it's also a chance for us to, when we go to elect our officials, we need to know about what we're electing and what we're electing for.
That's right.
And, you know, she's just going into the workforce. She has no clue on what to vote for, why she's voting, or any of that. So I think this will be a good foundation.
That's right. Too often we hear the nice things that they say, that both candidates, or even if there's more than one candidate, independent.
Which one kicks up more dirt against
And
the other?
they sound good, but unless people have an understanding of what the proper criteria of good government is, they're apt to get sucked in and vote for the ones that are going to do us in. Anyone else?
I think it's my duty as an American citizen, and my right, and my obligation to know the Constitution, okay? And I think I'd like to have an advantage over my politician, because they don't have a clue what they're doing and what the Constitution, I don't think they recognize it if it went up and bit them on the nose. So I'd like to have a little bit of an edge there.
Very good. Are we videotaping this? Okay. Ronald Reagan. This is a quote by Ronald Reagan. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be taught, protected, and handed on for them to do the same, or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. It will just be a memory. America, the freedom and prosperity that we've enjoyed has been an oddity in the history of mankind. We are the exception, not the rule. This is me. and my foster son, who I love like a son. He's in the back there, so if you hear a lot of noise and someone climbing the walls back there, that's Luke, my foster son. Luke, come here. You're on. Come on, come on, come on. Hurry up, fast. We've got 2 speeds, flat out and skid. Come here. First Amendment.
Just first.
Just the first. No smoking, just the first right now. Yeah, First Amendment.
Because I don't know. It's easy.
Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
It's really so easy to 6-year-old. You learn that. That'll be one of your homework assignments. Your first homework assignment is going to be to memorize from the Declaration of Independence, not the first line, but the second line, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
It's on the back of your pineapple sheets, your homework assignment.
Okay? That section, because that's the bedrock that America's founded on. We hold these truths to be self-evident, no debate. That all men are created equal, meaning not equal as far as size, shape, weight, height, color, anything like that, but weight as far as their right to liberty, their right to life, liberty, and property. So we hold these truths to be self-evident, all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator, so there's an acknowledgement, God, and He gives us our rights. And that governments are instituted among men to secure these rights. So the whole purpose of government is just to protect our rights. That's all. Not micromanage our lives, not be the nanny state, stay off our backs and out of our pockets, just watch our back as we're going about our business. And based on that cornerstone, America flourished to become a light on a hill for the rest of the world. So you'll be memorizing that line from the Declaration of Independence. That's your first homework assignment. And then each week after will be the First Amendment, what Luke just said, Second Amendment, which is real short, about bearing arms, Third, Fourth, and so on. Ideally, if you do all your homework, by the end of the course, you'll have the whole Bill of Rights memorized. Luke is already got the Third Amendment done. He's working on the Fourth, so he's got a head start on it. This is the cornerstone of my life. This is what motivates me. It's Matthew 18. Whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receives me. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck and that he would drown in the depth of the sea. We have a responsibility. Let me put it this way. As we grow up from children and become adults, okay? I say the definition of maturity is when we reach the point that we can rely on ourselves, okay? So we begin to be responsible for ourselves. Then we get a little more mature, we're responsible for a spouse, we're responsible for our children. We're going to be responsible for our community, for our state, for our nation. Right? This is the motivation. What better way to help the next generation than to make sure they don't get born into slavery, that we pass on the liberty that we inherited based on the sacrifices that our former generation, our fathers and mothers made, that we take that responsibility and pass it on to the next generation. That freedom not die on our watch. Welcome to Constitution 101. This is the format of the course. It's 12 sessions, 1 week each, hour and a half in length. It starts from 7, goes to 8:30. We usually end up, those that one can have the time to stay, we usually hang around, talk for a half hour or so. We'll do our best to keep the classes on time. We'll be using a DVD lecture series and materials provided by the Institute on the Constitution. It's a team of constitutional lawyers. This is the main speaker that we'll be hearing on the DVDs. This is Dr. Eidsmoe. He's a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, Judge Advocate for the Alabama Supreme Court, Professor Emeritus at the Thomas Good Jones School of Law at Faulkner University, Montgomery, Alabama. He holds 5 degrees in law, theology, and political science. First week, that's this lesson right now, be a biblical view of history, law, and government. These first few weeks are going to lay a solid foundation of what the beliefs and values of the founders were. In order to understand the Constitution, we have to understand what was in the hearts of the men that wrote it. Lesson 2, the discovery, settlement, and evangelization of America. History lesson will be held. This lesson 2 what we're doing is we're scheduling that as an optional 13th week. Okay? We took it upon ourselves. We felt it wasn't really pertinent to have it right in the beginning, so we took it out in order to make for more time for other issues, and we put it on the end. So you're not going to be missing it. It's going to be an optional 13th week. Week 2, which would be called Lesson 3, because we're moving that one lesson to the end, is the religious beliefs of the Founding Fathers. Week 3, philosophical worldview of the Founding Fathers. This gives us an extra week, as I said, to equip you on the founding principles in relation to current issues. Why the first 3 weeks are a history lesson. To understand and appreciate the principles of the Constitution, we need to understand what was in the hearts and minds of the men who wrote it. This is Justice James Wilson. He was one of only 6 men who signed both the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. He was a law professor and the original justice of the United States Supreme Court. In 1792, he was a co-author of America's first legal commentaries on the Constitution, and he's quoted as saying, "The first and governing maxim in the interpretation of a statute or law is to discover the meaning of those who made it." Not to reinterpret it according to his words. Meanings of words change over the course of decades, and we are centuries. So to understand it in the light of the original meaning of the words and the original intent of the men that made it. James Madison, known as the father of the Constitution, is quoted as saying, "Do not separate text from historical background. If you do, you will have perverted and subverted the Constitution, which can only end in a distorted, bastardized form of illegitimate government." And that's what we see happening today as a result of Supreme Court decisions. Week 4 be the Declaration of Independence and the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation was the document that got us through the Revolutionary War, and it was the foundation we began on, and then we had a constitutional convention and replaced it with our present-day Constitution, and by week 5 we'll actually be into the Constitution itself. But by that time we'll have a very solid foundation to begin with. Okay, let's get started. Founder's view. Relevance of God and His Word to law and government. God exists. That was fundamental. He knows what is happening on earth. He has moral convictions on what is happening. Therefore, He established standards of right and wrong. He communicates His values through the Bible. Example, the 10 Commandments, the Golden Rule, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Much of the Bible addresses law and government. As Sir William Blackstone, great English legal scholar, who many of the founders relied upon for guidance, Blackstone's philosophies and writings were infused with Judeo-Christian principles. Blackstone's great work was a commentaries on the laws of England. This was basic to the U.S. Constitution, because he's one of the prime men that the founders looked to for their reason. It was the primary textbook of America's early lawyers. Several of the founding fathers actually studied directly under Blackstone in England. Blackstone himself never came to America. The 10 Commandments are at the heart of Blackstone's philosophy. Blackstone taught that man is created by God and granted fundamental rights by God. This is the bedrock we're founded upon. Man's law must be based on God's law. Blackstone defined the forms of law. There's revealed law, which is found only in Scripture. There's the law of nature, revealed by God through reason and conscience. These are the laws of physics, chemistry, and so on. These are hard, and mathematics, science. There's municipal law, which is enacted by civil government, and municipal law now is only valid if it conforms to revealed law and the law of nature. So not all law is necessarily legitimate. It has to be based on revealed law and the law of nature. If it violates revealed law and the law of nature, it's not a legitimate law.